Link.
In the news tonight,
which are the matters that should be for integration?
President Museveni has re-echoed the need for regional integration in Africa, saying it is the best strategy for Africa to overcome underdevelopment and poverty.
You can allow the Tucanas to come and water their cows from one side.
A joint defense committee meeting between the Uganda People's Defense Forces and Kenya Defense Forces has ended in Kampala.
Renewable upon satisfaction of performance.
Also tonight, workers who operationalize the parish development model risk being fired if their performance after 2 years is not satisfactory. And in sports, Express FC returned to winning ways in the StarTimes Uganda Premier League after defeating Onduparaka by 2-1.
Live on your screen tonight is PM Edition on CTV. 2 minutes past 9 p.m. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I am Kalachi Brian. Isaac Luchams has joined me for sign language interpretation. Tonight, we start with President Museveni, who has re-echoed the need for regional integration in Africa to overcome the most burning issues on the continent. Museveni says issues like insecurity can effectively be dealt with through unity. He said this at the closure of the East African Court of Justice Conference in Kampala. And here's the report.
The second East African Court of Justice Judicial Conference attracted participants from several African states. It was closed by President Museveni. He emphasized the need for integration if Africa is to address underdevelopment challenges that affect the continent. Museveni based his argument on the law of GDP of Africa, which is $3.4 trillion.
We need socio-economic transformation to make these principles of justice in a modern way be on a firm basis rather than this shaky basis. But in order to do this, the society must undergo socio-economic transformation.
Museveni says the judiciary should work towards prioritizing land cases related to land disputes. According to Museveni, this will help to address the challenge of land fragmentation.
In the integration, I would want to challenge the intellectuals, including the lawyers, which are the matters that should be for integration and which are the ones which should remain local. For instance, land. I don't think land should ever be a federal matter because that will divert us, will cause unnecessary arguments. It should always remain either a state matter or even in our cases, it is a district matter.
The President, East African Court of Justice, Nestor Kayobera, expressed the need to expand the budget allocation of the East African Court of Justice.
Over the years, impacted negatively on the overall performance of the court. It is indeed regrettable that there has been delay in establishing and operationalizing the court's administration and financial autonomy of the court, even after the respect bill has been adopted by the Council of Ministers in the past 6 years.
The Chief Justice of Uganda, Alfonso Owunyidolo, says there is need to have a robust judiciary in bringing justice closer to the people.
The East African Court of Justice to ensure that it can effectively exercise its mandate of interpreting the community treaty and ensuring that the rule of law prevails in the community.
Justice and Constitutional Affairs Minister Norbert Mao, the Minister for East African Affairs Rebecca Alitwala Kadaga attended the conference.
We need to ensure systematic and coordinated dispensation of justice at both the national and regional levels. It's our obligation under Article 126 to enhance cooperation in legal and judicial matters through harmonization of legal trainings and certification, standardization of judgments of courts, and publication of law reports for jurisprudential purposes. From 2nd November to 1st December 2022, the East African Court of Justice will hold sessions to hear and deliver judgments in cases filed by the member states. The member states include Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, DRC Congo, and South Sudan. Flavian Nkuze for CTV, PM Edition.
Moving on, a joint defense committee meeting between the Uganda People's Defense Forces and Kenya Defense Forces has ended in Kampala. Participants discussed bilateral cooperation in defense and security between Kenya and Uganda. The details.
Any other ones?
Some of the issues that were discussed included operations and training, operationalization of the bilateral counter-terrorism strategy, prevention and countering violent extremism, joint cross-border operations against terrorism, peacetime military activities, among others. The Chief of Defense Forces, General Wilson Buddy, says having a robust regional security mechanism is paramount. He said the two armies can coordinate and strengthen the historical and productivity partnership between the two sister countries.
Show this, that this can be done. We are together in Somalia, going together in the Eastern DRC through the East African Community Regional Force. So this one we can also do. You can look at these things together and work out a concept of operations.
He says working together forecasts an existing good relationship which can be hinged on achieving the desired goals. General Badi urged delegates from both countries to protect the existing peace and stability in their respective countries because peace attracts innovators.
Because some of the areas that they are occupying have very useful resources that can change the lives of our countries. They have tourist opportunities. And so when you have these activities, secure activities being pushed by these guys, then they scare away these tourists.
The leader of the Kenyan delegation, Brigadier Sef Rashid, says there is brotherhood between Uganda and Kenya, which is evidenced by the signing of the first Joint Defense Committee report to enhance cooperation in defense and security between both nations.
And the brotherliness that engulfed the whole meeting. So these are two key points that I will take home. And sir, I have also noted the words of wisdom given us. I'll pass also regards to General in Kenya, as you had mentioned.
The meeting was also attended by several senior army officers from Uganda and Kenya.
Government will give staff engaged in the implementation of the parish development model a 2-year renewable contract upon satisfaction of performance. This was revealed today by the State Minister for Kampala Metropolitan Affairs, Kabuye Chofatogabye, as Kampala Capital City Authority starts training staff engaged in PDM. Patil and Timothy bring us this report.
The training is intended to cause a positive mindset change towards the implementation and success of the parish development model in Kampala. According to Chofatogabye, the State Minister for Kampala Metropolitan Affairs, the focus is on transforming the population from subsistence to commercial production. 100 million shillings would be allocated to each of the 10,694 parishes countrywide every year. The people who will be involved in the implementation of the PDM, according to Chofatogabye, will get a 2-year renewable contract.
That now public service has taken them on, and a contract sort of arrangement for 2 years, renewable upon satisfaction of performance. So these things they needed to know since they were coming from a different background, and they have been working on a contract of 3 months, 60 weeks, like that. So I'm trying to put calm to them, put calmness, and communicate the cabinet decision that have been granted and understood and awarded. Let me say everyone has had their cries, and we responded, and now they are fully fledged public servants, but working on these terms and conditions.
However, he said the contracts can be terminated on the basis of underperformance and incompetence, among other factors.
They are signing a contract which has got some bit of conditions to be fulfilled. Failure to do any, we terminate you. For instance, if you are caught in any act of corruption, we shall terminate you. If we catch you politicizing the program, we shall terminate you. If we get you trying to become biased because of certain issues and certain circumstances, we terminate you. We believe every person must be non-partisan, impartial, serve everyone equally, regardless of who he is.
Kabuye says every district apart from Kampala and Parisa has received the parish development model money.
But ours were just a small technicality, which we had not signed off. Like they call them citations, like pledges and confirmation and agreements saying, yes, we confirm, we are going to do this, we confirm, we shall write here this, we confirm. They are mainly anti-corruption citations which we need to submit to the ministry, which they submitted yesterday. So I expect the money to be on our accounts next week. However, they may not access it next week because there's still a pending work of holding AGMs, annual general meetings for all these circles, which have given a deadline of 20th November to ensure that all the circles in Kampala, the 97 of them, have set their AGM and communicated to the same effect.
Dr. Stephen Kanyana, the chairperson Chambogo University Upper Estate, says they have mastered everything related to the PDM to serve people well.
We have studied is just to help our local people be developed from the level of poverty to a certain level, so that they can have an income which is sustainable and be able to be assisted so that they can also, be able to help themselves and the family at large.
Asia Nabisere, the focal person for PDM in Kampala, says they have prepared a team for about 8 months.
We have prepared this for about 8 months, and it's known that they have been working. They have been in the field carrying out PDM activities, especially on sensitization, enterprise selection, and data collection. We are now sure that they are well versed with the communities where they come from. We have some shortcomings with a few, and we have set up a criteria of how we are going to weed out the unfit.
99 parishes in Kampala will benefit from the PDM. At least 97 circles, 1,200 enterprise groups, and 42,000 beneficiaries have been registered for the program. Tony Patila Humza, CTV, PM Edition.
After the break, let's find out what the civil society organizations have to say about the unmet promises of developed nations to African nations when it comes to matters climate change.
It's in the air! Will that be set? He's done it! What a magnificent performance!
Recharge your day with Sting. Extreme energy, refreshing taste, available countrywide. Sting, live switched on, from the makers of Pepsi.
CTV is now on StarTimes. You can now catch all your favorite programs, our daily comprehensive news bulletins, and so much more on StarTimes channel number 248. Stay tuned for a world of endless possibilities. CTV, don't blink.
Thank you for staying with us. Civil society organizations have staged a demonstration to remind developed nations under the United Nations Climate Change Conference to fulfill their promise to give African countries money to fight climate change. The promise is echoed every year by developed nations with a view of mitigating climate change in developing nations. Take a look.
This year, climate change conference will take place in Egypt. However, environment change activists urge that developing countries are failing to fund climate mitigation efforts by delaying to fund programs that would protect the environment. The activists under the Climate and Gender Activities Together We Rise Up movement staged that demonstration in Nalia near Kampala. Carrying placards inscribed with various messages, the activists say they have a mandate to fight for protection of Uganda's environment.
The developments on fossil fuels, and these are supposed to be paid up by the global north governments, because during the Paris Agreement and the Kyoto Protocol, they committed to give $100 billion to developing countries every year, and that's why we are here demanding them to pay up for the losses and damages.
Africa in general emits the least in all continents, and it emits less than 4% of global CO2 emissions. But you have seen we are suffering the most impactful incidences when it comes to the climate change impacts. We have droughts, we have famine, we have landslides.
The activists say that calamities like floods, landslides and drought in some parts of Uganda are caused by climate change.
In this year alone, Uganda alone has lost more than 1,000 people to climate-induced deaths through the floods in Malaba, the hunger and drought in Karamoja, the landslides in Kasese, the drought in northern Uganda. All these incidences have only left death and tragedy on their way as the climate emergency pulls through.
As citizens of the global south, and when I talk about the global south, that is Africa, Asia and Latin America, we contribute least to the climate crisis that is taking place in the world today. But we are the most affected people and areas. And today, in this Action Day, we are just calling upon world leaders, ahead of COP27, to pay up for the loss and damage, climate finance.
Safi, Mwakili Beluko and Chris Semale Musemakula, CTV, PM Edition.
Journalist Sam Mugabi has been elected as the president of Uganda Parliamentary Press Association. He beat his opponent Francis Lubega with a difference of 12 votes. Ranson Mahire was there.
By 7:30 a.m., parliamentary journalists had started arriving at the House ahead of the elections. Voting kicked off at 9:30 a.m. The chairperson Electoral Commission, Isaac Senabulia, closed the voting exercise at exactly 2:30 p.m. in an election that attracted 141 voters. Ibanda Mugabi got 76 votes against Lubega Francis's 64 votes. It was a hotly contested race, and there was tension throughout the voting exercise.
43, 44.
Mugabe's supporters jubilated after Senabulia announced him as the next president of Uganda Parliamentary Press Association. Ibanda replaces Moses Mulondo, who has served 2 terms. Mugabe promised to strengthen the relationship between parliamentary journalists and the leadership of parliament, as well as fighting for the rights and welfare of the association members.
This association needs all of us. This association is not for Uganda only, but for all members who do their reporting from Parliament. It's our responsibility to make sure that we work towards the growth of this great association, the Uganda Parliamentary Press Association.
UBC's Gloria Witabinj will deputize Mugabe, with CTV's Sarah Nakandi as the organizing secretary.
This election has taught us that there are so many journalists here who are not happy with the environment which is here. So I have to sit with some so that we work on their welfare, we work on what they want.
We don't want division in our association. Do things of the street, what? No, it doesn't work in our leadership now. We are going to make sure unity is the first priority.
I want to call upon all members to unite. It's all about uniting, and also if there is a chance to meet with the other camp to talk or to discuss how we can move together. Me, myself, I'm ready, and I believe even my president, Francis Rubega, is more than ready.
When people come on board, they are here for the good of all of us. So we shall not pull ropes again, because previously, of course, during vote hunting, we were pulling ropes, and everyone knew that.
Most association leaders went through unopposed. Ramson Muhire, CTV PM edition.
Congratulations to the journalists. Crossing borders, human rights organizations have urged Senegal's incumbent president Macky Sall to come clean about the reports that say he will be standing for the third term as opposed to the constitutionally accepted two. And in Tanzania, due to falling water levels caused by drought, the country has started rationing water. The details.
Several Senegalese organizations on Thursday urged President Macky Sall to dispel any doubts and openly declare that he would not run for his succession in 2024, a candidacy they say could spread chaos. Sall, elected in 2012 and re-elected in 2019, has been keeping his intentions vague for months, while opinions diverge on his legitimacy to run again, and the opposition promises fierce resistance if he takes the step. The constitution stipulates that a president cannot serve more than 2 consecutive terms, but several voices are being raised in the presidential camp to defend the idea of a third term, citing the 2016 constitutional revision, which they say would reset the clock. In a statement issued on Thursday, human rights and democracy organizations such as Africa Jom or RADO, associated with others, recall that elsewhere in Africa in the past, the forcing for a third term has had consequences, particularly tragic, an apparent reference to presidents Guinean, Ivorian, or even Senegalese. They say they want to avoid a scenario of chaos for Senegal. In 2012, Abdoulaye Wade's candidacy for a third term of office provoked violence that left several people dead. The NGOs point out that Sall had fought against the third mandate, a struggle in which he was the main beneficiary. The refusal of a third mandate was one of the watchwords of the 2021 riots in Senegal in a tense social and health context. Tanzanian authorities began rationing water in the economic capital Dar es Salaam on Thursday after water levels dropped as its main source, the Ruvu River, dried up. The Indian Ocean city's 5.5 million residents will be deprived of running water for 24 hours on alternate days, the Dar es Salaam Water and Sanitation Authority said. Dawasa said the schedule will be updated weekly depending on how the change in weather will increase or decrease water levels. Tanzania, like its East African neighbors, is experiencing little rainfall, with meteorologists warning that the prolonged dry spell will continue. Water supply from the Ruvu River has dropped from 466 million liters a day to about 300 million liters a day, according to water officials, while the city consumes about 500 million liters a day. Dar es Salaam Governor Amos Makala said recently they are aware that most areas experienced poor rains last season and the current season has been delayed, and that everyone should understand that this is beyond the control of the government. For failing rainy seasons since 2020 have caused the worst drought in at least 40 years, killing millions of livestock, destroying crops and plunging parts of Kenya, Somalia and Ethiopia, Tanzania's neighbors, into near starvation conditions.
Beyond the African borders, Japan has announced a stimulus package to help the economic crisis in the country. This comes after a steep decline in value of the Japanese yen against the US dollar. And after the Elon Musk Twitter takeover, reports say the billionaire is most likely to become CEO and also reverse life bans that were slapped on some Twitter users like former US President Donald Trump. Yes, ma'am.
Japan 世界の鉄道の歴史は
Japan has announced a $260 billion stimulus package to help the economy bear the impact of a weak yen and inflation. However, the central bank is not ready to move away from the ultra-loose policy that has had a negative impact on the currency this year. The yen has lost 20% of its value against the dollar. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida told journalists that this is a comprehensive economic package meant to combat inflation and revitalize the economy. After Cabinet approved an extra budget to partly fund the relief measures, Kishida said the government hopes the 39 trillion yen in fiscal spending will rise to 72 trillion yen when private sector investments are considered. Japan is witnessing a steep rise in prices, its fastest in 8 years. However, the country has 3% inflation rate, which is less than what is being seen in the United States and other countries. Friday's package will include measures to encourage wage growth and support households with energy bills, which have spiked since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Bloomberg News has reported that following the $44 billion takeover, Elon Musk is planning to fill in as Twitter CEO after firing Parag Agrawal, among other top executives. The publication reported that it might only be for a fixed time period and he will eventually give the position to someone else. Musk completed the takeover a day before the legal deadline for finalizing the deal. He went on to fire Agrawal, CFO Ned Sagal, and Vijaya Gade, the head of legal policy, trust and safety. Gade was one who had a few years back decided to ban former US President Donald Trump's account indefinitely. Sean Edgett, who had been the general counsel at the company since 2012, has also left. According to Bloomberg's source, Musk is reportedly also planning to reverse all life bans since he doesn't believe in lifelong prohibitions. If this happens, then several users who are banned by the platform earlier might be able to come back to Twitter. However, the report says that it is not clear if Trump would be allowed to return or not. Twitter will now run as a private company, with each shareholder being paid $54.2. Musk has been meeting with Twitter employees this week and is expected to address them today. Earlier, Musk reasoned that he bought Twitter to help humanity and wanted civilization to have a common digital town square. A day earlier, he walked into the company headquarters at San Francisco with a sink in his hand. Sharing it on Twitter, he wrote, "Let that sink in."
Past 9 p.m. PM Edition takes a short break and returns with more in the world of sports. Welcome back to PM Edition. In our sports news, Express FC returned to winning ways in the StarTimes Uganda Premier League. The Red Eagles, who have played 5 games, defeated Ondo Paraka 2-1 at the Bombo Barracks grounds.
After failing to pick up maximum points in their 2 previous encounters, Express FC picked up a win today in the StarTimes Uganda Premier League. Express defeated Odum Paraka 2-1 in an empty Bombo Barracks Stadium.
have seen beautiful goals.
Express, who dictated the game from the start, could have been ahead in the first 20 minutes if it wasn't for Dumparaka's custodian, Matthias Mwanga, pulling off a couple of saves. The visitors finally broke the deadlock in the 35th minute after Mwanga failed to clear a loose ball as Express forward Marvin Oshaba put the ball in the back of an empty net.
Martin Kiza. Muntabwe!
The game ended 1-0 at half-time. Odumparaka tried to equalize in the second half, and they were unfortunately caught on the counter in the 90th minute to enable Daniel Shabena double Express's lead. Odumparaka were handed the penalty in the 94th minute as Emmanuel Okech scored the consolation goal, and the game ended 2-1. Marvin Oshaba is delighted after scoring his first goal for Express. Express are in third position of the table with 8 points after 5 games, while Odumparaka are 14th with 1 point.
Team ya Vipers yamukugulisiza okubanga zitunulirwa nenga mu kaseera kano akumbera nga begera maso.
In the other games today, SC Villa maintained their second position after beating Bosoga United 1-0. KCCA suffered their second loss of the season after losing to prison side Maroon FC 1-0. Tony Patila Humza, CTV, Pure Edition.
Now, after winning almost all the medals at the international scene, Olympic and World Championships, Joshua Cheptegei is keen on talent identification. Cheptegei has set foot in the football world as brand ambassador for Admini Football Club in Tororo District. He believes that the young people, once given a chance, they can make it in sports.
World and Olympic champion Joshua Cheptegei is not only for running on the track, he is also in love with other sports disciplines. From building his own endurance center, Cheptegei was availed as a brand ambassador for Admin Football Club.
These will be on the galleries of Admin FC.
Admin Football Club, based in Tororo, was formulated in 2013 and is rebranding as a competitive club. Playing in the regional league, they believe they can progress to the big league for the first time. At a fundraising dinner to set pace for the club, Cheptegei revealed key aspects in sports that include endurance, discipline, and hard work as factors that will lead not only Admin Football Club to success, but rather equally other sports personalities.
Bring knowledge from different sectors, because I've had here, we have doctors, we have engineers. You cannot fail to really make the team. For sure. And count our support. We will stand with you in good times and in bad times.
Admin Football Club will be hosting its games at King George Stadium in Tororo, availing the 5-year plan for the club. Henry Owol, the president of the club, highlighted CAF Champions League football as the ultimate goal.
We have a plan to play in the Uganda Premier League as admin in the next 5 years, and we are going to work very hard to make sure that we accomplish this mission. Then we have a plan to make sure that Admin FC lifts at least a trophy within the next 5 years, which we are working as a team to make sure that we bring this on the ground.
Admin Football Club, who rebranded as community-based club, will this season compete in Uganda Cup and having Tororo as their fan base. They hope to compete favorably. Shemim Natebo Wetendo, CTV, PM Edition.
We're also going to be here.
Well, that's a wrap for tonight's edition. You don't want to miss the next program coming up. I am Kalachi Brian with Isaac Luchams on Sign Language. Keep it CTV and good night.